Thank you all for joining. So today is, is a very special session, and I'll tell you why. So we have Mr. Rajesh Mony, who is who is the ex-head of Spell Security. I say X because just this week, a few days back, they got acquired by Qualys. And I'll let Rajesh give you the details about that. So it's fantastic news. So I would want to start out by first congratulating Rajesh and the rest of the Spell Security team. It's a huge achievement, as many of you will realize. Congratulations, Rajesh.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And joining Rajesh is Mr. Mohit Daga. So I'll quickly introduce both of them and we'll get this started. So Rajesh Mony, as many of you on this call know, is the founder of Spell Security, which is based in Chennai and Bangalore. They specialize in large corporation in obviously building a lot of security solutions, mainly in the EDR and related spaces. And they've been protecting large corporations and the government organizations from advanced threats. I'm just reading from his bio for now. And prior to Spell Security, Rajesh has held various engineering roles in some of the biggest cybersecurity startups like FireEye, Juniper, Webroot, and Qualys as well. Rajesh enjoys mentoring, which I can definitely attest to. And he's also very keen on grooming young talent. He'll talk more about that. And he's been a very active part of cybersecurity ecosystem in India. So personally, for me, I happened to bump into Rajesh at a cybersecurity event in Delhi, and we spent like hours chatting about security, about things like moving back to India from the US. So Rajesh was there in the valley for like I think 10 plus or 15 plus years. So he moved back. And what is very interesting about this session for us to take away is a lot of the things that Rajesh, I think, is doing or has done differently with Spell. Once moving to India and building his company out of India, and his approach to sort of an engineering-centric company, in my perspective, his approach to hiring is very different. He'll talk about that, and he's very well connected with the ecosystem. He's also going to talk about how he went about building the products. He has got fantastic traction with the biggest players in the public and private sector here in India. And his focus has been centered around the Indian market, which is sort of counterintuitive because we keep saying that the Indian market is very small. So focus, I mean, that's what you hear from the VCs and from anyone else, right? So focus on the Western market. But I think Rajesh has done it very differently. He's focused on building the product, focusing on India as the market, but obviously a global audience. And I think it's been a fantastic timing because just last week, Spell got acquired by Qualys. And like I said, it's a huge deal. We are really excited to have Mr. Rajesh Mony join us for this session. And I think we have a lot of things to learn from Spell and from Rajesh. So thank you, Rajesh, for taking the time. And joining Rajesh is Mr. Mohit Daga. He is the consulting CFO to Spell Security. He's the founder of Mohit Daga & Co, his own company. And he specializes in aspects of setting up startup, accounting and legal and other aspects, which he'll also talk about. He has been a mentor to 30 plus startups. He's also very active. He actively collaborates with the NRS cell at IIMP. So he'll be joining Rajesh in talking about how they set it up and they went about it. So as always, we'll be recording this session, and I see that the recording has started. And Rajesh and I talked about this being a very interactive session because there is a lot to learn. So please feel free to stop at the right times and ask a lot of questions. I mean, Rajesh is going to cover a very broad ground in terms of how you start up something in India, and as he puts it, it's a zero down startup story. So everything from setting up, hiring, funding, bootstrapping, angel funding, acquisition, the whole thing, right? So with that, I would take it. Rajesh, go.
Hi guys. So yeah, so I'm Rajesh Mony. I probably know a lot of you, like from the events and other places. I see some familiar place names. So to just see, Raju has already given the intro. This is again the same thing. So along with me, I have Mohit, who manages all of our finances, and also he was instrumental in all the due diligence things that we went through, and it was all tough. So without Mohit, we couldn't have done that. Okay, so getting to the introduction, so we are like startups, no background, we are just engineers and wanna be entrepreneurs. That is how it started. When I started, there was no clue whether if it will fold in 6 months or 1 year. It was that kind of uncertainty. So you are starting without any what you call a lot of groundwork. So basically in 2016 April, that is when I quit my previous job, and I went to the US during May, and so I started talking to people, and I had some good advisor. I have, since I worked there, I have some close people who are seasoned in the industry. So the first thing is I go, how do I go about I want to do something on my own? How do I go about this? So the first advice I got from my current advisor, he's called H.A.C.K. He was heading all of Google security and all. So he's a big guy in the industry. So his thing was just get a business guy as partner. Get to the point that you hear good things from couple of companies are willing to talk nice about you, and you will go to the meeting. So this was the first advice I got, and probably that was the right one. But then I didn't do any of those. I came back to India. I incorporated the basic things, and even the choice of I live in Bangalore, and I started a company in Chennai. So that itself was so because I had the infrastructure, I had a space in Chennai which was rented out to HP. So I asked them to vacate. I used that space, and then I had a lot of contacts in the from old times. I had people from the consulting background, all the Wipros and that kind of. I had a lot of friends in that circle, and I thought they could help me, set up, and so that they were my pillars to start this company. Then it so happened we incorporated. I mean, even that was not the right decision, because I went with one of the traditional auditors. They work with normal companies. For a startup, you need a lot of handholding. So those were all things that we later on figured out. You have to do so many things. You don't have the people, and you are struggling. So then we started hiring, and obviously, you are bootstrapping. I couldn't bring colleagues from the previous company, well-paid MNC job guys. So it didn't, and nobody will you need somebody who will take the risk along with you, and it's indefinite. You don't know whether it's going to take 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. so somebody should have that staying power, like no. So then I started believing that no, I should go get some good fresh talent, like no, so good young engineers, and so from that angle, I had the previous experience when we started out. So I relocated back to India, as a founding member of one of the large companies. Uh, and we did go out to the IITs, and so we did hiring there. I had a sense of how fast people get groomed, and what it will take to bring people up to speed if you are hiring the right guy. So we went about hiring straight out of college with a few consultants. I had some consulting agreements with some companies in Chennai, and we predominantly hired fresh guys, and we kept the bar high, same bar as how I did it in the previous company, and we made sure they are paid well. So from paying a young engineer to the full market capacity, maybe same as what Symantec and all would pay was okay for us. Not the very senior guys we couldn't afford. So we went with brightest talent but young guys. Then started out with some ideas, so we had ideas around endpoint. Obviously, we wanted to do some of the endpoint security. Then we had threat intel stuff, it's a little bit. So we started building out stuff, and then you are not just building. There is no validation. You don't even know, whether you are building the right thing, and and who do you go meet, so we had so a lot of people said they will help, and they showed their, they have all these contacts, but in the end, it did, none of these things was real, so nobody would buy, they might give you a meeting, but nobody would buy a product from you. So this was all the initial, and nobody is going to buy anything. You are talking EDR, and all the other companies are multi-billion-dollar, companies with hundreds of millions in funding, and for somebody to take you seriously is tough. Especially this kind of domain, where it's very highly technical, and you have a lot of these drivers and a lot of low-level components, and it's a complex stuff. To do this, and people take you seriously, take some time. So this was the initial thing, and then over a period of time, we figured things, and now things slowly started happening. And so the whole this meeting, this session is about. We will keep our story as a background and start discussing some of the things. This is the end. So we stayed as this R&D company out of Chennai, and we ended up getting a lot of big labels. Now, whatever label we had in India was all big. So we had some of the biggest banks, and pharma, we had the government, and we did some of the breach investigations, some of the biggest hacks, so we did a lot of things, and all the most, pretty much everybody stayed with us, all the employees, we hardly had any attrition, and they all grew with us, so that is another aspect, so nowadays, the youngsters are not fancied by brands. I had a lot of these employees who left larger, as even Amazon, kind of offers and joined us. So that is something that is different from last 10 years back. Now everybody would go after a brand, but nowadays the youngsters are not fancied by it. branch at all. Like, okay, so so yeah, so talking about the basic ideation and validation, I assume that there are a lot of young startups here. So um, so I'm pretty sure most of you would have ironed out, like, no, you have a idea that you are strongly believe in, like, no. But I still talk to many friends, my friends in the cybersecurity group. They are still trying to fish, like, no, what is the real, where is the market fit? Finding the market fit is not that easy. Like, no, something that you would people would buy, like, no, that would people would buy and pay for is not that easy to create. Like, no, you would think something, but when you actually take it to a customer or a VC or something, they see it in a different way. Like, no, so they will ask all the hard questions, like, no, and you should. That's a good experience actually. Like, no, so the um, and so I think that is very important. Like, though you believe in an idea, you should take it to whoever you can meet, like, the PC kind of people or potential customers. Like, take the idea, like, even before you have the product, go and talk to them and like, see their pulse. Like, so it's and you have to, people will just discourage you because you are small. You should avoid, like, you should ignore all those stuff. But you can make your own judgment, when you talk to people, and when they will give you, they will ask you the questions that you cannot answer, and that will help you kind of, like, tune the idea or products, like, which becomes useful. And so I know a lot of people are looking for funding, like, so people who typically want to get to funding. And so I met a lot of this Silicon Valley or good uh, seed investors. So I met the guy who invested in, first gave the first money to Carbon Black, or like, so several others, like, I met two or three people like that. And obviously those people take you, invest in you, and completely be with you. Like, you want somebody like that, somebody who will be with you, not just give money and help you in acquiring customers, or giving his contacts, or giving letting you talk to the advisors in the industry. And that is the kind of people you need to work with. So I have a lot of friends, like, who have got a good seed, say 1 or 1.5 million seed round, and but the VC just gave them the money. But what happens? They didn't have the support, and like, when they are burning through that money, they still don't have the revenue to go to Series A. Like, so when the Series A kind of a VC comes and sees, oh, you don't have revenue, you are supposed to be doing 1 million, but you are only at 300K or 400K. So then you are in a trouble. You have a lot of trouble raising the next round of investment. So so I know getting money is tough, but it's also very important to get the money from the right guy, like, or so we never went for real funding. So we were supported by friends and families, and like, so uh, just recently we were like about to raise around 1 million. This all comes from bunch of Silicon Valley, investor group, like, not formal VC, like Angel Group, but it had a lot of big people like the founders of YouTube, Palo Alto CEO, that kind of people that there. They were willing to fund us based on an India-based business plan. So they were willing to fund me with the thing that you become big in India, kind of thing. Like, so So it's not always that, I know the kind of, I've talked to the Cisco people or all those people, venture so they don't see India as a, big enough market, or they don't even know the real size of the Indian market. They will say, yeah, there is all this data that, many organizations give out, they don't really believe that, if it really is fake. From their own experience, they have a different view. So that is the thing is continuously be talking to the VCs and filter out the discouragements, take all the real feedback and help that to tune your product. Obviously, you want to find somebody who will fund your thing. So that is one thing. And obviously, go ahead.
Sorry, Rajesh. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to, put more spotlight on something that you just said in passing. I mean, but that's counterintuitive on so many levels, right? The fact that you had all these angel investors, and they're not just some, as they call it, it's smart money, right? These are the people who will fund, who will give you the net connections to actually expand your business, to go to the Series A level. Ultimately, it's all about the networks, even in a B2B cybersecurity space. So the smart money that was coming in from the valley, which is pretty much, which is the epicenter for cybersecurity and anything else. So you're saying that they wanted to fund you because of your India story, right? Because they wanted you to focus on the Indian market, and that I think is something that most people, that I have talked to in this space, write it off, right? I know we have people on this call who are focusing specifically on the India market, but in general, people say that, hey, cybersecurity, early adopters, everybody is in the West, so just focus. If you're sitting here, have a co-founder in the West, or your biz dev there, and just focus there, right? So can you maybe talk a bit more about why do you think that India has this story this is cybersecurity, right? It's not your consumer market, it's not a B2C, it's not under Swiggy. But why do they think that India has a special sort of market for cybersecurity?
No, India is a large, one of the largest, economies in the world, and obviously, there are lots of large companies, government spending, etc. in India, So, and local as always has advantage, I highlight all this, scenarios, actual customer cases, where we had many of our customers, left MNC kind of thing to come to us. So being local has a lot of advantage. I will tell you, so you go to some place, the big players are sending not their direct employees, they are sending somebody who is a dealer's employee, so it's you can beat them on the support quality. First of all, they will come and googling about their own product. So this whoever you have paid ton of money to get this product, and we have seen when you really need, when there is a breach going on, or when you are investigating, logs are not coming out, something happening, and they come and they are helpless. We have seen it multiple times. You get it, a US company cannot have the same focus in India. And we focused on the Indian customers can definitely give much better support and value for money. The kind of value we give for our customers, I don't think a major corporation will be able to give. So I think those are the things you can leverage. Being local has a lot of power. And I think the Indian companies needs to leverage it, and and you have to be better than the other guys when it comes to serving Indian customers. I think that will be the key. And people buy that. People buy the fact that India is a growing economy. There is a big potential here. So there is even on the B2B side, and how many industry groups you have, and it's just the spending mentality, if I just look at Chennai, so there will be hundreds of organizations, that should be spending. All this, so many big companies, all the consumer companies and all you see, they'll be making thousands of crores in turnover, in whatever they do, shampoo or whatever they are doing. These are all big corporations, but their cybersecurity spending will be very less, nothing. So they are, but now the awareness is improving. Everybody knows that they need to have these controls in places. So slowly, we see people hiring CISOs and the change is happening. And Indian companies are the ones who can take advantage of this. If you try hard, so I know everybody and so in the industry there is a lot of turmoil happening. The big players like Symantec and H.A.C.K and all are not in great shape. There is a lot of changes happening. Even the technologies are going away. AV was there for 20 years. The effectiveness and all those things. So there is a shift happening as well as and Indian companies are starting to invest more in cybersecurity. And I think being local and being aware of the opportunity is it's logical only. Don't you think so?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah. So it's always the mentality and making being able to go convince more and more. I think it's happening. So we never thought we could go into some of the big companies and get the kind of what do you call acceptance. So that is happening, and every market here. So obviously you are. The size of the market you can fit. There can be business plan that fits into that market size, isn't it? So we are in a very mainstream market. It's endpoint and all. It's one of the biggest budget items for any IT security, and it's large enough market, and so we feel that we could have penetrated the Indian market. So and Quick Heal is doing well. So it's Quick Heal is a large company now. They have done they are all Indian market based, isn't it? So there is opportunity and people recognize that. So and also you being as a small company, your chances of winning the US market is always questionable. When you have so many players, and so they also they tend to buy your story that you be a dominant player in India. So I think that is something that the Indian startups need to leverage. And it's a mindset. A lot of people go then. We hear all these stories. Where are you in the magic quadrant? All so you cannot play that game. But slowly you win the confidence.
Got it. So I think fantastic. I think you summed it up well, Rajesh. So I mean, the takeaways, if I may summarize at this point, are really to focus on the fundamentals, right? So look. I mean, from your perspective, from Spell's perspective, focusing on EDR, which is sort of the mainstream cybersecurity product, if you will, right? And it's undergoing a lot of technological changes. A lot of the old school is being replaced by new technology. So focusing on that, plus focusing on the the local market where your feet are present. That is critical from your perspective. And what you're saying is that is your leverage, right? So if you're not in the market, it's obviously hard to convince someone else, your customers or your funding agencies, that you're better than the local guy. That is much harder. So leverage your strengths, and the local market, obviously India is huge. Many SMEs there. They might not be sort of big ticket items in your sales, but the long tail is long enough that if you get a few of these over time, then your ARR sort of really hits values that start making sense. And the other part, I think that I want to summarize from what you said, is also focus. Focus on customer service, right? I think from the outside in, the view is that, hey, the big guys, cybersecurity, unlike some of the local B2C companies, you can't really compete with. It's hard to compete globally because technologically, cybersecurity companies in India don't have a huge advantage over the global players, be it the Semantics, McAfee's, or the other startups. So what you're saying is that is not really true, because a lot of this is it's not a turnkey solution, although we might think of it like that. It's such complex technology that people deploy. It's not like they deploy it and everything works, right? That is not true. So they do need a hand, which is where customers, key customer or excellent customer service comes in, that they do need hand when things go out, when you have breaches. They need to know how to use your product, how to configure it, and how to sort of make use of it. Otherwise, they're just burning their money by paying huge premiums to Western products, which might be comparable, but you don't know how to use it, right? So is that sort of a reasonable?
Yeah. That is true. And from an Indian startup point of view, people ask the API and all these people what we can do well. Is one thing I find is the Indian SIs are huge. They have tremendous clout. All your big the Tatas and the Wipros and the HCL, these are all huge global corporations. And I feel they should support the Indian startups more. If you go to Wipro and still they will probably promote an Israeli startup than an Indian startup. So I think, and even from a government spending point of view, that's what we keep on bringing up, that so we are at a disadvantage from a money point of view, a big disadvantage. So so in the initial years of getting the industry on its own legs, there should be help. They just need to buy, make procurement easy, and also give more opportunity to the Indian startups. So that is what can bring the ecosystem strong. If you want to be like a Israel kind of ecosystem, then obviously the support has to come from the government and whoever is already big in India. The Indian SIs are really big. They control the IT of pretty much every major corporation in the globe, and they taking on more Indian startups and all.
So that should be a huge leverage point for the Indian cybersecurity startups, right? Because these guys already have. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I thought this was a key point. And maybe we'll take a quick pause to see if others have any questions, because I think Rajesh can really talk about anything in this space, and a lot of it is very counterintuitive, at least the way I see it. Any other questions that people would like to discuss at this point, or would like Rajesh to talk about?
Rajiv, hi, this is Prakash here. I think Rajesh brought up one very important aspect that I've been trying to fight for a long period of time, which is the industry bodies really help the top 5 consulting companies in India for them to get to where they are today. To add to Rajesh's point, I think it is absolutely a critical time for them to really work with startups, Indian startups, whether it is cybersecurity or any other space, and help promote them. Unfortunately, there are initiatives today within these large organizations like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, etc., to work with the startups, but they really have not gone anywhere simply because their internal incentivization is not adequate. For example, a sales guy in Wipro, if he had a choice between an Indian startup product that is offered by them versus a product offered by Symantec, he rather go work with a Symantec simply because he doesn't have to take that extra step to educate the customer on who is this startup, why they should deal with him, etc., etc. It's a very crucial point, not just from the government perspective, but for the large corporations to really promote the Indian startup. I think the industry bodies really have to come together to change the incentivization system so that these companies help the startups.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a fantastic point. Thanks, Prakash, for bringing it up. I think if you look at, like you said, the private companies separately from the government initiatives, right? Because the government's influence obviously extends so much. The private companies, the SIs, especially like you and Rajesh said, they already have a global reach, right? And they really can make a huge difference in terms of promoting these products. So there, the question is, I see an obvious leverage in terms of them being from India and being able to actually bundle, market, sell Indian cybersecurity products, right, as part of their suite of services. This is assuming that there is parity on features, there is parity on quality. So comparing spell CDR versus carbon black CDR, right? Obviously, if there is no parity or if there is lack of quality, then it's a done deal. But there's also a huge, I think, the problem that you're bringing up is also a branding issue and an incentive issue, right? So the incumbents obviously have a huge branding plus point that somebody go to sell doesn't need to really sell a carbon black because, hey, it's carbon black. Versus if it is spell, then then maybe they need to first educate about the company. Essentially give their prospect some confidence that spell can actually work. But from a leveraging perspective, the incentive I think is inbuilt because the SI can really leverage from a costing perspective, right? I think Rajesh is going to get to that. From a costing perspective and obviously directly to a bottom line profit perspective for the SI, right? Them working with an Indian startup, Indian company would obviously give them huge, much bigger margins than they can leverage with, let's say, an incumbent like Symantec or Carbon Black or Darktrace or anyone else, right? So that that is there. I don't know, Rajesh, do you think it's a matter of time, or how do we? How will Infosys or someone else, right? How will they start changing the way they work with somebody like Spell or Securely Share? What do you think is required?
It's responsibility at both ends. The startups to show credible, customer wins and things like that. And also for SIs to SIs have a huge leverage with Indian startup, obviously. So you are the giants, you are the small guy. If they want, they can do it. Yeah, I think they have programs. I know, Wipro and all have this programs, and somebody has to make sure those programs are successful. For a sales guy, it doesn't matter. He doesn't mind. He for him, no brand, something. Yeah, just keep it part of a large. So their deals typical deals have a lot of line items. They are controlling the entire IT. of large companies, and this is one of the small line item, uh, and I don't know, so the programs, so the startup programs within Wipro or something has to make sure the startups are getting enough representation in their proposals, and obviously, the startup will do anything to support, they will be uh, supporting them really well, when they get the opportunity, and so it's a matter of everybody being in sync, everybody following this agenda, backing this agenda, so I think that is what we had. Yeah, so we had one large partnership, one big SI which was progressing in the right direction. So we were giving a lot of proposals. We were starting to work closely with them, one of the biggest SIs. And yeah, I think it's definitely possible. It's just that yeah, it needs more help. I think the NASCOMs and DSCAs can really help push them and make sure that this is improving, because the reach is huge. So yeah, so all the SIs, the reach of the SIs is huge. So you can, sitting in India, you can serve the global customer, as a startup, without having all the big infrastructure, because the SIs themselves have and you can devise things that they make more money out of the services, so having that possibility, also can improve the situation there.
And the other thing I've heard is, I mean, this is obvious, but from their perspective, well, really from a customer's perspective, one of the big challenges with startups is not just about the product, but it might be fantastic, but just in terms of business continuity, right? Will this startup even exist 1 year from now? If I have to sign off on a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan, the startup might just disappear for various reasons. So I think that I've heard that, okay, relationships with SIs make sense because they will at least, they have a relationship over 10, 20 plus years with some of these big customers. And even their SIs also worry about similar issues with working with startups, right? Working at least with early or first timers in the space who might have a fantastic product, but they don't know if it'll exist 12 months down the line, right? And there are also questions about intermediate bodies such as Gartners and others, with right, that there are these representations of market leaders or cool vendors and things like that. So a lot of that is taken at face value and is taken as a proxy for evaluating the product. So unless you get into, unless you're recognized by Gartner in one of their quadrants, you don't have a chance in that category, right? And that means that now the startups are really have to work towards convincing Gartner, which obviously takes a lot of money and effort. And that again sort of is a challenge. But yeah, so sorry, Rajesh, please.
Yeah, no, just from our space, if you look at the endpoint, or maybe 10 companies come in the Gartner, the whole picture. But there are so many other companies. There are EDR itself, I think 40 or 50 vendors are probably there, and not even half of them, or 1/3 of them, actually appear in anywhere in the magic quadrant. So it's not necessary that, all the business is only going to the magic quadrant. I know, one of the biggest banks, in India, deployed EDR from a vendor which is not there in the anywhere in the Gartner quadrant, and unfortunately, it's a big company. It went out of business also. Recently they pulled out. So it's the risk is, yeah. So yeah, obviously, if you there is business continuity things, but some of these SIs and other people can like tone it down, the risk.
Got it. Got it.
And even for our case, so none of our customers are left behind. We are taking the entire customer base to our next company. So nobody, so every customer, we have a plan. So we are supporting, continue to support and migrating or whatever, like everybody is on board with it. So yeah, these things happen. Even big companies, Symantec, what happened, and they completely defocused on. They only want, things can change. Like the strategy could change. They only focused on certain number of enterprise customers. These things happen. Like whether it's small or no, so that nobody can guarantee a company is going to be there for, especially in this field. Like and technologies are obsolete. Like they go obsolete in a few years.
Right.
Like sandbox comes and 3-4 years that is no longer effective in stopping things. The next thing comes. So this whole industry is highly dynamic to begin with.
Fantastic point. So yeah, sorry, I know you have a lot of ground to cover, so we'll let you continue. Thanks.
Sure. So one of the other issues we face, so you are a startup, like you started building something, and you don't have funding. Then obviously, like you cannot build the car right away. You have to build a cycle, then make it the motorcycle, and then get to the car. So we have the same problem. Like you are building things, and like it takes time, and how you keep some revenue coming in.
Right. Hey, 1 second, Rajesh. Can I request everyone else who's not speaking to please go on mute? I think we are hearing some talk. Okay. Stop for now. But yeah, please go on mute if you're not speaking. Thank you. Go ahead, Rajesh. Sorry.
So we have the problem, like so you are building a complex technology, which I know many startups, even in the SIM and like it took 3 years before they could even go to the customer. Like so there is so much things to build, like and so how do we kind of reach milestones where you can start generating revenue, like so for that creating visibility of the company, and doing little bit of the marketing, and doing other innovative things that can help you kind of sell intermediary stages, and those things help us. So what we did was from the beginning we did little bit of marketing. So one of the things that we did was we created all these closed groups, email groups, and started sending out continuous threat research papers, threat intel, to just nobody has bought anything from us, but people are continuously hearing from us. You got it, all the we will reverse malware and send the reports, just creating some mind share. We will be sending out threat intel reports monthly, and we will show up in some of the events, because it takes quite a bit of time before people will accept you. They want to keep on seeing you, before they buy things from you. So we did little bit of we spent some money on creating visibility from the beginning, little bit. So we were there at some of the DSCA events, which are all not expensive to participate, and also the NullCon and things like that show up. And And second thing that we did was like we did little bit of trainings, even certain so many people, all the banks and all would come to our trainings. We do a 1 day workshop, 2 day workshop, 1 day red teaming or like malware versus. So we did many of these events, like which all cost us expenditure, but most of our customers through that came through that channel, so they uh, see that you have the technology that you are good, generally, so you guys know what you are talking about, kind of thing. And so we did spend a lot of time in creating that kind of a mind share, so we are the Mandiant of India, so we are cool, kind of thing. We did a lot of some research, just research and sharing research, kind of thing. And another thing that we did was do engagements, so we started doing. So I don't know, now as a very product company, you probably don't, but we had that as part of our business plan. No, you call it consultative selling. That is what Mandiant does for, for example, FireEye. So they go to the engagements. At the end of the thing, the customer really trusts you. Once you have solved their incident, or you have done threat hunting and found this many issues in their network, all those things, and then the trust is high. And we have a lot of our customers, we big names, so we were able to win trust through that, so those were so. And it also gives us the ability to test the product. If somebody else has to use your product, that the quality level has to be different, or but when you are using yourself, through this engagement, it was easier for us to evolve the product, being able to get real customer exposure, and being able to evolve the product. So so at least for us, this consultative selling really helped. Being a complex product, it takes years to build, but it helped us to leverage it in phases. When use it when it is just a cycle, not the car, kind of thing. And so this whole forest, yeah. So all the breach investigation and threat hunting kind of thing, we it helped us because and it's high end of the consulting. You are not doing VAPT or anything. We are doing you are an alternative to Mandiant. People get the code from Mandiant, and it's such a shocking thing. Most companies have to go to the board to get that kind of approval. So they charge what? It's a lot of so. And then they look for any Indian companies there, and TSCA and even certain refers us to people for insurance. So though we are not in panel with them or nothing, so we get references from. So these are ways in which we kept some money coming in even before your product is ready. So. So these are all very subjective. So it's companies that want to be very razor focused on getting a product out. So they can, but then everything needs money. When you don't have money to do a 2-year, 3-year-old development cycle, and you find some of these things to bring the money in.
So Rajesh, I think this is another key point that I would like to summarize. So we have multiple startups here that have previously talked about how they're focused so far on services, but now they would like, or they're building products, or they would like to focus on products. And what you're saying is, I mean, at least in cybersecurity, it's very much possible to do both. Start with the consulting, with the services, because that brings in a steady stream of revenue while you continue to build your own product in-house using using both this consulting as not only as a source for revenue, but also as a source for building customer relations, getting a lot of requirements for the product that you're building, right? Which you can leverage at the right time.
Sure. So also it is possible that in our industry, it's like all the major players, all the product vendors are coming out with services, whether CrowdStrike or like everybody has a services wing now, FireEye or everybody, because the expertise, people don't have for a bank or somebody to hire that kind of talent needed to investigate and things like that is not that easy. Like now there's a heavy talent shortage in the industry. Like now, so only the technology vendors are able to fulfill that easily. So that is why if you look at everybody has come into service. They have a service offering on top of their EDR or or they have this Mandiant kind of services that go. Even Cisco has, all the companies have nowadays. So so in our case, it also aligned. Even the bigger players are doing this.
In their case, I think their case, they are servicing their own products. But for startups, initially, you might actually, and this is probably something you faced in your breach investigations, you are probably looking at, when your product is, let's say, it's not deployed under development. So initially, when you go in for any of these VAPT kind of engagements, you are looking at your competitors.
We usually take our, so we usually take our platform and go.
Okay. So you don't look at the competitors.
We do everything. We look at other things. So but we propose deploying our thing in the selected places and using our own tools.
Got it.
And we don't do VAPT. Yeah, so we don't do VAPT kind of thing. We do look for threats already. Yeah, so if you have already been breached, that people just call us proactively and look for. We call it threat hunting. Other one is they have a breach and they want to see the extent of breach or investigate those missions and where all it spread and all those stuff. Yeah.
I think that is an interesting point I want to highlight. I think we have several VAPT companies in our cohort. So if selling VAPT is definitely harder because you have to convince them of all the usual things. But what I've heard and what Rajesh is also saying is breach investigation, the pull, it's a pull than a push, right? So a lot of the requests, all the requests are inbound because they've had a breach. They obviously have to respond to it. So if there is a way for the VAPT companies to flip it and essentially use your expertise in breach investigations, then the conversion rate will be much higher, right? Because now you get called, assuming that you have obviously the expertise and experience, you get called for these investigations, you go there. If you don't have a product, you essentially get to study what the deployments are in all your prospective customers. You get to evaluate the pros and the cons of the competitors that you're really building a product against. So you do that. You also get a source of revenue. You get to study your competitors. You get to establish a customer relationship, and that goes a long way. Right, Rajesh?
Sure. So yeah, so that is one of the H.A.C.K used to work with you. This was another. So they also so if I'm giving a proposal to a big company, BDR and all, so the H.A.C.K also will sell what you call a pre-package, predefined package, for 10 incidents. So the customer will also buy 10 incidents in advance. Whenever he has it, you have a 24-hour SLA to go, look at it. They will make it part of the original team. So these are interesting things that even the H.A.C.K are doing. So the ones we were working, they were pre-selling incidents before it even happens. So yeah, so up to 10 incidents, it's prepaid or like that. So
fantastic. This is like your gift card strategy, right? So it's upward bookings, and you get sort of the customer gets locked in for the next 9 breaches. So
exactly, yeah, something like that. Yeah. So
Any folks on the call? Any other questions? I mean, Rajesh has. I mean, Rajesh and I have spent like 10, 20 hours on calls, and he has so much wisdom. So, if you guys have any specific specific questions or aspects, please do ask, and I'm sure Rajesh will have a fantastic answer to it.
Hey Raj, this is Riyas here. I have one question. So when you talk about this incident pricing or the gift card kind of approach, right? How do you usually charge your incidents? Like it's a man-hour basis or a hourly basis, or because it's a lot of system-handled incidents, right? Or
Yeah. So we usually what we do is two-day so whenever we do so we charge it by a 2-day or a 4-day kind of not our basis. I know a lot of the companies do hourly thing. So we will say so 2-man days this pricing kind of it.
model, or it is a dynamic model? Like it depends on the customer, or it's all the customer have the same model to follow?
Not every customer. It's mostly the same. So when somebody calls you with a brief, you don't know what is the extent. So we did a email breach for a email compromise for a customer recently, and so when they call, they also don't know. No, they have some thing, and they are calling you, and then you have to go in and scope it, isn't it? And you have to continue till the thing is resolved, or to a point where they can take over.
Okay,
So that is all.
The key question what I would like to clarify is, as a customer, I would like to know what is the cost that will have. I mean, I need to in advance. I need to know what will be the cost, right? So that I have some confidence to engage the party.
Exactly. So so we will give that 2-day. We initially come in for 2 days, and this is the cost, and this is the one. When it extends, this is the cost. And usually, so we are not that strict on very counting, but we give a fixed upfront cost, and then when it extends, what is the cost? So that is the model we have.
So the customer trusts the hours you are spending, and I mean, if it is a 2-day release.
Yeah. So we are usually we give them a better deal, So that is a contention. If you are purposefully extending it or no, that is up to the. So that is a trust thing, So but people have been very. We didn't have any issues around that. So we went in with a fixed package thing, and then as it extends, we will just say that this is this thing. These are the new things we found, and we have to follow it. And so it was okay. So we don't very strictly count hours, like that. We have been very flexible with our pricing also. But as you said, it's I know so one of the government organization I remember we end up going so many times back so as a company you need to absorb some of the costs there is but you make it enough so that it will cover. It's not a cheap. If you call any big incident responder, the rates are really high. So this is a very, and for them to keep that talent, why somebody like a big incident response companies are so expensive is the incidents only come at certain times, and you are keeping the people for the whole year. So that is why so people wonder why something is charged $600 dollars per hour. The reason is they have to keep the talent for the whole year, and they may not be getting incidents every day, and from our thing we don't have a separate incident response kind of thing. Our research team was the one which was handling, so we were we didn't have dedicated people, but but the pricing, is VAPT and all is a commodity. People will come and do it for 10,000 rupees, so we don't do that. So the minimum thing will run into labs. Yeah. So.
Yeah, thank you really for the detail.
Yeah.
I have one more question. I mean, did you had any chance like customer asked the effort estimation in advance in your incident?
They will do. Depend if it is a threat hunting and all, yeah, they will do. Even this one they will do. So we will say we will give that breakup. We will do this kind of thing. We will do. But most of the cases it's urgent. No, they want you to start looking at it immediately. So most of the things I get a call at night and so tomorrow morning 8 o'clock can you come kind of thing. No. And so to write a PO and all, no, there is not much time. So.
Okay. Yeah, I got your point. I have one final question, Rajesh. See,
sure.
I really got all your points. It's really good input. Thanks for that. How do you manage your knowledge base? For example, each and every customer, what you are handling, it could be some repeating cases or it could be some new cases, right? How do you manage your knowledge base in terms of it is a recurring incidents?
So because for us, our product and research area is it keeps changing. None of the things are. We see the server side attacks, things coming through web shell. You see applications being hacked. You see the endpoint email kind of thing. You find completely new things. You find email breaches. Somebody has somehow got hold of your email account. So it happens, everything, and somebody had a Oracle database. So you would have never. So this is a lot of on the fly. You cannot you will say, okay, Juniper VPN got breached. So it's something that we know. Yeah, so it's always learning. So but this thing is whole. Yeah, so we have enough background to learn anything. We can adjust. So that is the bottom line. And even our thing is we EDR and also a lot of new techniques. We're continuously trying to catch up with the whole APT game is like that. So we see the Chinese hackers. They once you come into the environment, they are seeing what is around it, and they are adjusting to that. We can use RDP, they can use this proxy, so there are so many techniques, and they will put files inside your application. I have a Jenkins, they will modify, so.
The technical details, I really got it, Rajesh. I just only thought of asking in terms of any process that you're especially following, but I got your answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, sure.
Hello. Hi, Rajesh. This is Nanda from DigiSec 360. I have a question on how to make revenue while your product is still evolving. Okay, so one strategy that you told was providing consulting or services, right? Just wanted to understand from you, did you try partnering with other Israel or USA based product companies and provide complementary product to your customers? Do you think that strategy is a good thing, or will it cause any brand dilution? What is your opinion about this?
It can. We are constantly talking partnerships, technology partnerships. Yeah, so we have a US a couple of US partnerships, which just recently. Yeah, so we are looking at. We are constantly looking at, even within the Indian startups. We are always looking for bundling. So that is one of the things that comes up in the Indian ecosystem. We should go together. So to beat the big vendor, a bunch of startups should go. So that is what NASCOM everybody proposes. But then in reality, I don't know how much of that works. I know many people work together. Even we try to work with other people. Yeah, but it's a good thing. Yeah, so complementary going as a solution. So far as now, we don't do going with an endpoint protection company together. In certain. So in our case, no, the partners, so if you are, no, some channel will take both of us together. So that has been our experience. So the SIM, yeah, the SIM plus our EDR and the EPP, like no, the channel will be taken together. Like no, yeah. So that has been our experience. And one of the things I missed out is like no, the expectation of BC. So there are two companies, no, like no. So we are a company like it's a viable business, but not a VC kind of business, like no. So if you go to a VC, like no, like even Mohit as a friend, like no, investment banker, if I talk to her, she will say they want to see 1 million revenue in the first year of operation, 3 million in the second year, and 10 million in the third. Like no, so if you are going for a PC kind of thing, like no, you better know as a scalability of the business, no, how fast you can grow becomes like no very crucial. So like no, so we were no more organic company, no, so we are a bootstrap. We are trying to go like more organically. So like no, so that yeah, so it depends. Like no, so these are all like no the founders. So both are viable business. No, like even our thing also is from a founder point of view, it's okay company. Like no, we were able to get the big label, sign the exit, and all those stuff. But when you are looking at a VC, you know, he will want this company. He is probably looking at $100 million exit. Like no, and so that is and Mohit can talk about some. So Mohit has fantastic startups under him, which are like growing exponentially. Like now, people who are raising 1 million in 6 months, they are raising 20 million, and next 6 months they are raising 100 million. So yeah, so he can talk about some of those. So, but we were more organic, like no, so more growth was like no very moderated.
Okay, thank you so much.
So what is the other and pricing? Yeah, so pricing we negotiate obviously like when you are going to the large customers. And I know a lot of friends in the city, you spend a lot of money upfront, hoping the business will come and it doesn't come. Like even I know people who are been working too early with the big, some of the big SIs. They will be asking you proposals every day or no, every week, and they will burn you out without even a single business coming in. So from that angle, like when you should get into channel, is like I thought like doing a few direct sales initially, like keeping this always like made sense for us, like so. So the channel things we started much later. Start working with the channels. So that is so, and you have more visibility. When you are directly dealing with the customer, like you are able to go support, make sure your product is working well. Or also you get the pulse, like you can give him a better pricing. We can give him like exactly what is happening with the deal, so that you have full visibility and you can adjust to it. Whereas if you are going through a big channel or something, you have no visibility, till you just gave a proposal, you don't know what happened, and even if a POC comes, you don't know the exact feedback. So you just keep on servicing them. So I have many friends in the cybersecurity thing also who started working with the major SI, had a lot of hopes on it. Started giving so many pilots going on. In the end, no business came. So these are some of the learnings. I think a lot of the startups will agree with me. So this has been the general experience to work with the big SIs initially. And what else? So I think Pricing, obviously, like, you need somebody. So we didn't have that, background to negotiate pricing very hard. But so when you are talking to a large enterprise, they have a lot of money. Try to get as much, be persistent and not try to get as much money in the deal as possible, because you'll be giving uh, excellent support after that. That all costs money. So we just fly people to Mumbai or Delhi, without thinking. Like, if somebody wants one of our customer calls, we are giving that excellent service. Like, so be there immediately and all, but it all costs money in the end. So try to get as much money, because they can afford. Like, the large enterprise, though they negotiate with us. Uh, um, And yeah, so I think some question on, there are some questions that are coming in. Yeah, certain empanelment is easy, like, I know a lot of people in this group know, so S.S. Sharma, like, so they have a process, like, we didn't go through empanelment because it's only for VAPT. So we don't do VAPT. But so they have a process, like, like Sanjay Bal is the, DG, and S.S. Sharma. Yeah, just if you ping me offline, I can give all the contacts. So they are very helpful. Like,
Hey, Rajesh, I have one question in terms of like the pricing what you discussed, right? See, we had a challenges in terms of dealing with the channel partners. Whenever they brought the project, we are the one who are taking care of a project end to 100%, but these channel partners put like a 40-50% on their margin, right? So the end of the day, what is coming to us, it's very nominal in terms of like what the brokers are getting between, right? How do you handle these kind of a challenges?
so that is what I,
So,
initially said. Like, uh, uh, we initial. It's not just my experience. No? I talk to all the cybersecurity startups here, which are there for longer time. And initially, always it makes more sense to go direct. So if you can, and the smaller, like when I deal with a smaller reseller, I have full transparency. Like, this is the end price, and this is what you are getting. But I don't know, you will get the same thing with a big brand, like Wipro, or like, you will not know the exact pricing, like, what they are going to quote to the end customer. No, you are just giving them your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't have
Yeah,
anything
and
else.
they have all the leverage on you. Like, they know that they are getting a business which is, big favor. So they will, they are constantly, like, they will try to drive down your price, and but you have to stick. And it's a hard thing working with the big websites initially. Like, it's saying no, they can take a lot of proposals without anything coming out of it. And second thing is, they get you into a deal which you are providing a lot of support for very less money, and you are losing money. So
so Rajesh
yeah,
sir,
that
I
is,
have a point on this. Shall I speak?
yes.
So, as the current participant and the earlier one had the question, how to make revenue when you are in a developing stage, and how to handle people like channel partners who take a majority of the portion without any effort, which we feel because just for the connection they are asking 20, 30, 40, 50%. But these are the stepping stones. Like we have to take internally like that, because that guy, if he's charging exorbitant amount, ultimately he will lose you. Once or twice he can make a big money out of you, but when you become strong, you will bypass him and it will happen directly. So it's unreasonable for that guy, and also not a long term proposition for him. If he charges exorbitant amount, he won't get when you become strong. But for you, you will need that guy. Initially you can negotiate with him, but if you think that he will take this much, so it's only about a stepping stone. You do a couple of business with him and he's out. So either the person whom you are dealing is in not a right frame of mind, who is thinking on a longer term relationship, or you just treat him as a stepping stone. You do one or two business with him, you You won't make much money there, but you will need some cash flows initially. And then when you are in a little better position, you just go direct. This is what happens in deals like that. When he was not reasonable, so when you are in a stronger position, you won't be reasonable with him. So this is the simple way how business works.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what we are currently doing. And really thank you for the inputs from Mohit and Rajesh.
Rajesh, quick time check. We have another 30 minutes left. And
so I think, so I think Mohit can give so generally so funding round, and he does a lot of being ready for due diligence. So even when we were at the startup, you are taking a lot of shortcuts, in compliance, and also it will all come back to bite you. Make sure all your legal agreements are properly vetted, and so when something like a due diligence happens, they will give you a very very hard time. You have to go in fix a lot of things. So Mohit, you want to give a overview of so the things that are important to a startup.
Sure, sir. So just before that, a quick survey. I would like to understand what stage are these startups in? Like they are still in a developing stage, they are a private limited, or they are already having some revenues or few employees. If some quick numbers can be thrown, it will be easy for me to give relevant informations.
Yeah, if you want, I can start with it. This is Riaz from Esi Labs. So we are
Riaz.
we are a 6-member team. We are
Okay.
already making revenue out of the consulting services. Parallelly, we are building our product, and product is already on the pilot stage. Few of the customers are already using it, and we are expecting to launch soon.
Okay, and so you are a private limited?
No, we are not a private limited. It's a sole partnership. It's currently running under my bootstrap.
Okay, and what's the plan? Is like you want to be a bootstrapped, or you want to raise money in future?
See, for now, my decision is to go to market and get some customers and understand the market, right? Until then, I don't have a plan to get the investment unless it's really a large investment.
Okay.
And for now, currently, we are good with the project, so we are making some good money out of it. So we are doing projects for some enterprises like Dubai Airport and banks. So we only focus on the quality project, so we don't get into much the low cost project. So we so far only got 2 projects, so we are good with that. We have some kind of like a recurring to run the team.
Okay. So you have traction in the business, so you don't you're not looking for any money immediately. I got your point.
Yeah, it is sufficient to run the team right now, but if you have to plan for the expansion and achieve the goal what we are thinking, then definitely we need to expand, then we need the money, right? But I want to go to the version 1 to the market on our own and see the market before we are getting into any partner or ventures.
Yeah, got your point. Yeah.
So how do you see that? It is good, or like do you think like we should go for it?
No. There are different ways of doing it. I'll give a brief on that, how a business in this stage works. If any other person, I can get few more information, I can like plan it accordingly.
Hi Mohit, Bhavin here.
Yeah, hi Bhavin.
Yeah, I run a company called as Project, and we are a 3-year-old company. Our first flagship product got launched about 2.5 years ago, and we have a good set of customers across banking, insurance, healthcare, telecom, etc. So we are bootstrapped, and so from that perspective, we do
What
not
is the
have,
team size?
We are 38 employees now.
Okay, and still bootstrapped means you are generating revenue.
Yeah. So we have a mix of services and product. So initially when we started, the story was similar as the way Rajesh mentioned, that we started with more of services, and now the percentages, they are reversing. So earlier it was close to 80% on services since the product was just getting started. And now I think we would be at close to a ratio of 65 to 35% on 65 on product, 35 on services.
Okay, that's great to hear. Yeah.
And Mohit, many of the others I think are private limited, like securely shared. H.A.C.K, I'm guessing it is private limited, but go ahead with that assumption. So there is probably a small mix of partnerships. A lot of them, I think, most of them here are bootstrapped. A couple of them have grants. The team sizes, I think range from less than 10 to maybe 50 to 60.
Okay, so I will start with some initial compliances related thing, and then we can pick up. And if somebody has any questions, we can discuss on that also. So basically, there are 4 or 5 type of legal entities in India which we create. One, as we already heard, is typically a sole proprietorship where individual does on his own, in the sense he has the same PAN number, he doesn't get a separate PAN number, and he works in his own sole proprietorship firm, and there is no partners or any corporate structure there. So we have already heard one person, he is doing that, and that is also one way of doing business. The only advantage and disadvantage there is, in the advantage is any money you make, you can directly pay tax and use that money, but in private limiteds, you have to pay dividend distribution tax, etc., when you take out money from the business. But the advantage in private limited is that you can take funding there, you can have partners. But in others, like sole proprietorship, you don't get funding, etc. So that's a disadvantage of a proprietorship and advantage of a private limited. We also have LLPs and partnership firms where the tax rates are little higher, but still you can have additional people if you want them to be your partner. But still you can't get funding in these LLPs and partnership firms, though they are easier to maintain and less compliances are needed and compared to a private limited. But the ultimate entity where you can scale your business and where you can add people and where you can show a corporate structure is a private limited. Basically, funding can also only come in private limited. If you are not looking for a funding for a couple of years, you can run a sole proprietorship or a partnership or a LLP, and then you can change the business to private limited. But yeah, it's not so easy to move from one legal entity to other legal entity. There has to be some buyouts, etc. Some complications are there. But as we understand, like if you are in idea stage and you don't have much clarity whether the business will take off, then the present sole proprietor or not having a company is also fine. But if when you get some little bit idea that no, I will continue this business and it's moving, so you should have a private limited, because if you approach your customer also, it gives a little bit more good impression to them that no, we are dealing with a corporate entity. And private limited always have a scale, because if you need some money, some funding, you can approach somebody and it can be immediately taken in the system. So these are the basic advantages and disadvantages of a legal entity.
Yeah, but in terms of like private limited, you must have the partners along with you, right? You cannot individual apply for.
No, you can have it. What happens basically is 99.9% stake you have, and any of one of a family member becomes a partner in that, like your mother, wife, or somebody, ex-brother. He takes one share in the company and becomes a director, but he is not active. Most of the things you only do. So there are a lot of startups, including H.A.C.K Sarma's Paytm, who has started individually. So this is the basic hack which happens here in this type of structure where you have only one person.
Yeah, noted.
And now, if we go into a little bit further stage, there are GST compliances, etc., which we need to do when our revenue crosses 20 lakhs in a year. And if we are doing an export, we have to do against LUT bond. Otherwise, we have to charge GST on that. These are some initial mistakes a startup does. Even, in fact, there are a lot. I will highlight a few. Suppose you are having a private limited. There are 3 compliances which we need to do immediately after incorporation. But most of the people who get their companies registered online, they miss to do these compliances. Like within 30 days, we have to appoint an auditor. ADT1 needs to be filed with ROC, which many of the startups misses. And all this comes in due diligences and in further rounds when we are getting funding. And then secondly, you have to issue share certificates within 60 days of incorporation. So share certificate is a very important document which gives you the ownership of the company, and it is always required when you are transferring shares, etc. So your stamp duty needs to be paid within 60 days, which most of the startup misses. Then there is a certificate of commencement, INC 20A, which needs to be filed when you start your business. Means you can't do any business transaction in the company unless you have filed that certificate. Many of them miss this, and there are a lot of penalties because of that, and it doubles every month. So these are the few things, like when a company is incorporated, we need to take care. Then coming to the monthly.
NIA?
Sorry?
What is that certificate name? NIA?
Certificate of Commencement, INC 20A.
INC 20A, okay.
So this is a certificate of commencement which needs to be filed before starting operations. So suppose you raise an invoice, you receive some money, you can't do anything. You just put your capital into file form or you want to do any business commercial transaction.
Okay, got it.
So that form needs to be filed with ROC. And then comes our monthly compliances. Monthly compliances in the sense TDS. So any money we pay to some consultant or some freelancers, etc., above 30,000 in a year, we need to deduct TDS on that. And the TDS has to be paid by 7th of next month. And if we don't pay, we can't file our quarterly returns, then there are penalties on that. So these are some basic things which needs to be done when you are having a entity. And when you're doing a payroll, if your employee strength is crossing 10 or equals to 10, you have to do a ESI registration. So ESI registrations are applicable when anybody is drawing less than 21K per month from your company. Even a single person drawing 21K, you have to do ESI registration, pay 4.5% to the government every month. And this is basically an insurance where they can take a treatment. It's a social security scheme. We need to do professional tax. Whichever state we are in, we have to pay professional tax every month to the government. It's 150 or 200 rupees per month, which needs to be deducted from any salary which is paid. And this professional tax is applicable even if you have one person or even if you are directors. Then comes PF. If you have 20 employees or more, you have to do PF registration compulsorily. GST I have already told. So PT, PF, ESI, GST, these are the basic things which a company needs to maintain apart from the books. Because once you maintain the books, you know about all these things, how to pay, etc. So all these are basic requirements and basic initial things we should keep on doing every month. So whenever any bank loan we take or any funding we get, these are the basic checks they do. Apart from the other regular checks like maintaining minutes of the company, then having a statutory register, complying with labor laws, having proper agreements. All these are the basic things which we should always keep in check, because it will not take much effort now. But after 2 years, if you try to collate all this data, it becomes really impractical, because you will also forget the transactions, what you did 2 years back or 1.5 years back. Apart from that, those regular audits and regular ROC filings are there. So apart from this, there are certain points which I can also speak on, but I would like to know from you if you want to know something specific about some of the financials and compliances related part. I would speak on them, and then if there's no point, I can speak on to the other topics which I would like to speak.
Great points, Mohit. Thanks for sharing. So yeah, I mean, if people have specific points that you would like Mohit to talk about, we have about 20 minutes left. And later on, if Mohit and Rajesh are available, you can get in touch with them directly as well. So share your points here or on the chat box. I don't see anything for now. While we are waiting for this, can one of you, Mohit or Rajesh, can you talk about some of the points on this slide, which I think are very keen? I think there were questions earlier on in some of the earlier sessions on right? How do you hire as you when you're a very early stage startup? How do you retain such people? Maybe Rajesh or Mohit, I don't know who's got the slides.
I can talk from ESOP point of view. So normally that most important and used tool by any startup when they are initially not able to pay much good salaries to the guys, and they are coming from good companies, or they are already earning a good income but they still want to do something on their own. So there are two ways of doing it. When the partnership is very strong, and you can make him a co-founder by giving him some percentage initially also. But if you don't want any co-founder in place, you can make him as a employee. And employee, if you employee, there are two variables which they earn. One is the monthly token of appreciation or salary, whatever you call them, you give them to sustain. And if they are already having some money, and if you don't have much liquidity and you want to manage their ESOP, is a very important and a good tool, because if they are coming with you, that means they are subscribing to your story, that you can become a good company or a good successful business. So we can give them a ESOP that, see, like, you will get 1% or 2% in the company, or 5% depending upon the quality and the negotiation, and you will vest it over a period of 4 years. So it helps in two things: one, he get ownership sense in the company, and second, he stays there, you stays for long with you. So if your ESOP is vesting for 4 years, he will stay 4 years, because if the company's value is increasing, he wouldn't like to go. So this way you can retain a talent also, and you can also cash flows issues. And the other things which we get is interns. Interns, it looks like a very casual type of employee, but interns are very important. I have seen big startups growing big with interns. Like, they have more interns than their employees. Interns always help, and they execute work. Their costs are also very less, because they also want to learn. So interns and ESOPs are the people who help you initially in making products, in growing company, or in building company, which comes at a very good cash flow. So that's from my point.
Good points.
Yeah, so my experience has been, so two things. So I come from a very well-paid MNC, so FireEye. So I was employed at FireEye before I started this. When you are looking for experienced people, so when there is a lot of uncertainty, you want somebody to be very committed with you, for a longer period of time. So somebody who is leaving even for me, you are leaving a very good job and coming to do this, and things are not moving, people get nervous, so that is so for that reason, I stuck with the young guys. I went to the colleges, but I can still say a very good company, the youngsters, and we spend time on grooming those people, so they don't have any family. They pretty much put I don't know, 15 hours, or they are working. So we had a very aggressive culture, people work 6 days a week. That kind of, and they get better, and we had very little attrition. So I have all the guys who came with me from the start of the company, they are all joining college, and they benefited, so they are making they are benefited from the exit, so it's for you, right? And even from college, you find all these highly entrepreneurial guys, who are already very good. Now they are way beyond their experience levels, or no, they are. So those are the guys, we went after, guys who are really good. We can give a higher growth pattern than if they are joining a Cisco, or not if they are joining a bigger company. The growth is going to be very slow, and we achieve extremely good learning and growing opportunities. They are in front of the customers. The exposure level in us is really good. I had many of the interns. We also do interns. And many of them got campus placements in really big MNCs, and they came back to us. So they didn't take it, and they stayed with us just because the work content is so great and they enjoyed. So I think for at least the younger engineers, yeah, that is the thing. No, it's mostly how much they are able to learn and how it can help their career. I think that is what they are looking for. And we didn't compromise on the base salary, so we gave a good base salary, which is reasonable, like no, which is higher than what you get in the services company. So like, but almost similar to what you would get in an NSC kind of thing. But we focused on younger guys rather than bringing like no my friends from a previous company and all. So so we did. I did have a few, but this is what happens. People get nervous. When things are not, unless they have to be same, like if he's a co-founder and as passionate as you, then it's fine. Like no, otherwise when you are bringing a senior guy, and they get jittery, so I'm no salary and now like especially with people with family and all, it becomes. I see a lot of my friends, like it doesn't work out, people leave very quickly or no. Uh, so I just followed this. I followed the thing of grooming my own people, like, and paying them well from the like as young guys. So yeah, so and it all depends. It all depends on your situation and what works out for you. Yeah.
Good points. Thanks, Rajesh and Mohit. There were a few questions that were not clear on the chat. Some, asking about ITC for consumables or operational GST.
Yeah. Hi, Rajiv. So, I'll
Hi.
explain the question maybe. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask like the operational sides, right? Suppose we bought some IT equipment, renting or internet services. So all these consumable, right, or the operational cost where we pay GST to our vendor. So can we claim that in our input tax credit?
Yeah, definitely, because that's your right, and that's why we take a GST registration. Most of the expenditures what you have told are allowed, apart from this food expenditure, etc., snacks, etc., and there are certain disallowed ones. These all are definitely you can take input, and there are two ways to knock off these expenditures. When you are billing to your client with GST, you collect entire money from him including GST, but the GST part you keep with you in cash, and the credits which you have got while procuring the stuffs and services can be knocked off and paid to the government. And secondly, if you are exporting the services, then you can claim refund of that money from the government as well. So GST inputs are definitely claimable, but you have to keep 2 3 things in mind. The invoice which we have should have our GST number, proper name of the company, proper address, etc. Otherwise, we can't claim GST input. And we have to make sure also that the vendor files our GST credits on time, because we can see that in our GST 2A, whatever credits they are giving to us in they are filed on time or not. Is that clear?
Okay. And yeah. So one more thing. Now we face like. So moment you file the invoice, the GST is due from you, whether you got the money or not. So like so that is something. You gave a big invoice to the customer and he takes 5 months to pay for you, but you have to pay the GST next month. So Mohit, I'm correct, isn't it? Like we faced it.
Thank you very much for clarifying. Thank you.
So
right.
just
go ahead, Mohit.
So just to inform you, we manage this GSTs and accounting and payroll and compliances for around 30 to 40 startups, ranging from bootstrap till Series C from our office. So these days we are getting a lot of inquiries because most of the people don't want to have an in-house resource or competence is a problem there. So we have helped a lot of startups in maintaining their entire stuff in our company, including spell security. Like we are only maintaining their payroll, all the accounting, all the traditional filings which needs to be done in a month, and we do it in a very startup style, like over a WhatsApp group and Google Drive and Google Sheet. And we have client all over the country: Mumbai, Gurgaon, Delhi, Calcutta, everywhere. So if any of you who wants these services also, we can get in touch.
And Mohit, another question on the chat to you from Riaz. I think he's asking about ESOPs, employee stock options. Riaz,
So,
can you please? Yeah. Is that what?
So when you mentioned about the e-shops, is it a more of a practice or a tool? Like, see, I'll tell you my situation here. We are engaging with a few partners who are outside of our organization, and they are providing support in terms of like doing some the proposals, and I mean they are like well-wishers kind of thing. They are supporting with a good heart. Whether they have expectation or not, we would like to repay to them, right? So how do we engage them in stuff like this situation?
So there are two ways here. In India, advisors are not allowed to give ESOPs. ESOPs are basically employee stock option plan. As the name says, employee. If he is an employee in your organization, you give him options to convert his efforts into equity shares of the company. Like if you have suppose you are two partners and 50% stake you guys have in the company, and you want to have an employee whom you want to give 2% stake, but that will come over a period of 2 years so that he works for you. So your stake becomes 49 and his becomes 2 once he completes 1 and 2 years. So he has to be on your payroll to be eligible for ESOPs. Advisor ESOPs or advisor equity is not practical in India. In abroad, in for
Voice is breaking, Mohit. I'm not able to hear anything so far for last few seconds.
You broke up in the last seconds.
Okay, yes. So the thing is, ESOPs are given to employees. So ESOP are given to employees and not to advisors. So if these advisors are on a payroll and they are your employees, then you can give them ESOP. ESOP is basically a future equity which you are giving them now, so that they grow with the company and the company gets good valuation. They get some good money out of selling their stakes in the company. So for advisors, if your company doesn't have much valuation now, you can transfer equity now like a normal equity transfer, because otherwise the valuation issue will come in future. Suppose your company is valued at 10 million in future and you want to give them some equity at par. You can't give, because as per income tax section 56, it will be like giving an asset at a less than a fair value. So these are few challenges which we have. If you want to give him in future and your valuation is high, then you both have to pay tax on that. But if you are really thinking of giving them something, give them some equity now only.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thanks, Mohit. Really good input. Yeah, we will plan it accordingly.
All right. So Rajesh, we have the last 5 minutes.
Rajiv, just one question to Rajesh. Rajesh, this is Karthik. We discussed about the difficulty in market penetration for a startup, and we discussed about how to partner with SIs, how the challenges in getting into analysts reports, Gartner, Forrester, etc. One of the challenges I see is the challenge is the lack of strong capacity or capability with the customer as well, right? So if a customer has to procure, say, a EDR solution, he may not have the in-depth knowledge of EDR, the various products available in the market, the various feature set, what are the features that are relevant to his context, etc. He may not be aware of these intricacies in detail, and hence the customer might end up taking the easy way out, which is insisting on being in Gartner's quadrant or Forrester Way or whatever. Right?
Exactly. So yeah, my experience, exactly. So when we started out the company, we thought SMB will be an easy target. This is exactly the reason where we were not able to, because it's very difficult to educate the SMB, and they will always go by the brand. If you go to, if I'm going to State Bank of India, they see so many vendors, so it's easier to convince them. As a brand, if I go to a Six Shampoo or somebody who will, as a CEO, he's at risk, he's taking a decision, and they are very afraid to take a decision on in favor of a startup. Whereas if you go to a big bank or a government organization, they would have seen already, they would have seen, they know the difficulty with large brands and all those stuff. They were more willing to take risks with us than smaller people. Where, it's ultimately, a CISO or somebody takes a decision and he will be accounting. If this doesn't work out, then he will. So those people were more what you call brand conscious. So how we had to break some of those things was we did a small thing. We went and did a threat handling, which is not much. It's only a few lakh rupees. Then you slowly win the confidence. Then once they get comfortable with you, and second thing is once you go into our case, once we go into this kind of engagement, we know all their problems. So you become their trusted partner, so you know whatever is going on in their network, everything, and you are helping solve those things first. They get the trust and then they are comfortable. But initially you will feel that the smaller people are the ones who will be they will talk when you go IBM and all, so you have to slowly break that notion.
Right. So one of the initiatives we have been deliberating at SciSec is actually to partner with a few industry leaders and build a model RFP, right, which will consist of a core set of technical as well as service specifications for various types of security solutions. So, for example, if you are doing for say EDR, build a model RFP which says these are the typical EDR technical features which should be expected from any product, and these are the services specifications you should be expecting from any service provider. Do you think something like that will help run if you are able to build and also maintain this kind of standard set of specifications?
Yeah. So it's both ways. If I'm a CISO at a small place, I may not have myself. I may not be knowledgeable myself. So if I'm looking for something, and the Gartner and all is very high-end stuff. For people to figure out exactly what it means and all, what to go by, and should we invest this much. So for a India-centric thing, if you are maintaining these things, you are basically doing advisory kind of thing, and you are doing it for the Indian businesses. And so I think it's perfect.
Any thoughts from anybody else in this group on doing something like this? So the idea is to lower the barrier for companies to do a very objective assessment of different solutions, as against going with going by the brand name, like Rajesh was saying. Do you think something like this makes sense?
So my guess, this is Rajiv. So my guess is Prakash. Well, yeah, okay. Looks like he's dropped. But someone else like Bhavin or others who have dealt with multiple banks and customers, they might have some input. Bhavin, are you still around? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so certainly, such a kind of an initiative can help, especially when we have some leaders of larger organizations who can sponsor at least a POC for a startup and then see how it works. So my feeling is, it can certainly help to the extent if the product is innovative, because there are so many companies who reach out to these leaders, and they know what is they know what kind of features are expected from a specific product. So the product has to be really innovative, or it can be customized to the requirements of their environment. So only then will you get a chance. So and bigger the organization, the effort from a startup to even do a POC will be much higher, because they have a lot of processes for inducting a particular system in their environment, too many approvals, too many reviews it'll undergo. But it would be worth it. I mean, if something like that can be done, it would really be helpful. In fact, there was also a discussion which happened during the session about some of the larger IT companies who have been serving some international brands, some of the international customers. If some sort of tie-up can be done with some of these, like Infosys, Wipro, TCS, to give chance to Indian startups to serve their customers, maybe starting with a small POC or something like that, that can really help. So we should look at both the options. One about doing POCs through leaders in some of these large organizations. And two is to see if there is some tie-up which can be done with these larger IT players who have a pretty big play, not just in India, but globally.
Though you might see Riyaz from Itela, I have few comments in terms of respect to the question what you have been asked. Though you are grouping the startups with a different expertise, the experience here will be like until unless you are black labeling all together under the one logo, you may not able to create that brand, right? Then the individuality of that startup will be losing that credits or reputation. So we may look into that aspect as well.
All right. So looks like we are out of time. Unless there are any thoughts, Rajesh, Mohit?
Yeah, nothing much. No, but yeah, So I think there is a lot of optimism. Like the Indian scene, So I worked in India a long time back. So from that to this day, it's a sea of change. And even last 5 years or so things are improving, and and we never thought we could go get the state banks and the uh, big government ISROs and all. We never thought we will be able to get into all those places, but it's all possible. And we didn't have any background, all engineers. The entire company is just engineers. We have we have never seen a customer, most people have never seen a customer, but yeah, so I mean it's all possible, guys. So I think keep believing and do the right thing. So that is something we make a lot of. I made a lot of mistakes, in this journey, and reach out to people who have done this before, and but anyway, a lot of things come from your own mistakes and learning. So yeah, keep at it. I think there is a lot of potential and to grow the Indian cybersecurity ecosystem. Yeah.
Fantastic. So thank you, Rajesh and Mohit, and just the wealth of wisdom that Rajesh has, he can easily, conduct at least 5 other sessions into this. So a lot of learnings. So if you, Rajesh, if any of the HAT cohort, any of the participants here would want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
You can just connect me over LinkedIn. Okay, Rajesh Mony, Rajesh Mony, if you search. So let me see.
Okay.
I can just type out so maybe.
We'll share this on the group chat as well. So
yeah.
So hopefully people found this really useful. There's a wealth of information. Rajesh, and look forward to seeing you again on some of these forums, even post your Qualys acquisition. And congratulations on that once again.
Yeah. Thank you. So guys, anytime. So it's my pleasure.
Fantastic. All right. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Mohit. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.